Traveling the Vortex.
We've joined the Doctor as she travels the Vortex and arrive at episode 462. And you know, Would You Like a Humbug just doesn't have quite the same ring as Would You Like a Jelly Baby. I'm Keith.
I'm Sean.
Did she say a humbug?
That's what they were.
Oh, I heard her say the ginger would settle.
I don't think she actually said what it was.
How do we know it was a humbug?
So according to TARDIS Wiki.
Oh, yeah, because she said, well, we knew it was ginger flavored, whatever it was, because she said a ginger will settle your stomach. So,
can we talk about the next level trolling that Chibnall did there with her pulling out a paper bag and here, have a ginger. Aww.
Not quite the same.
Yeah, but I mean, if jelly babies aren't known for settling your stomach, she's obviously going to pull something that will. And ginger's known to settle your stomachs.
There you go. Did you guys have a good week?
You're missing the point.
Well, I don't think I am. I think I'm right on the point.
Oh, I just can't with you tonight. It's going to be one of those. I'm good. How are you guys?
Tired.
Me too.
We've got a sick kiddo.
Yeah, I'm just getting off of the flu myself.
Oh, is that what you had?
Yeah, I think so. Holly had it early in the week, and then it hit me about Wednesday, and never really fully hit Wednesday. And I thought, okay, I'm going to be in the clear. And then Thursday came around; it was a little worse, but then I kind of rebounded, and I thought, okay, well, flu shot must be working. And then Friday it hit me full born, and I was pretty much out most of the weekend.
That's never fun.
Yeah, but I'm feeling better today. Back at work today, anyway. You guys watch anything this week?
Oh, I went and saw Call of the Wild.
Was it any good?
It was. It was quite enjoyable. It was a rousing adventure and a fairly impressive CGI doggy and an equally as impressive CGI Harrison Ford. No, I'm kidding.
Did you see that dog?
Great as always. That
dog is modeled after a dog that was adopted in Emporia.
I did see that.
Yeah, so did I. That's pretty cool.
No, I have to admit to a bit of a failing. I've never actually read the Jack London novel.
I never have either.
Me neither.
But I liked it.
Keith, you watch anything?
Gemma discovered Muppet Babies, the new series.
The new one?
Good.
Computer animated?
Yeah, it's really cute. There's a lot of nice little touches. Like Statler and Waldorf are the neighbors. And so anytime they're on the stage, they're up there all the time. Or like they did actually some time traveling and wound up in Egypt, but the Sphinx had Beaker's head on it, and it was just in the background and not addressed, just back there. It's little stuff. In the first episode, they're running away from a boulder, and it literally cuts to the background is Indiana Jones. So it's really well done. I'm impressed by it.
Sounds cool.
Yeah. But I did finish, and I started and finished Rebel Rising, the Star Wars Jyn Erso book. I figured since I was on the Rogue One path, I might as well continue. And it was pretty enjoyable. It really connects the dots for that gap time in the middle of, from the prologue to the rest of Rogue One, and fleshes out her relationship with Saw and how they kind of fall out and how she winds up in the prison. They did a good job with it. I liked it. A quick young adult novel read, but I thought it stayed fairly true. If anything, it gave her more reason not to join the rebellion. That I think it kind of does a 180 at the very end to go, oh yeah, well, okay, I guess I will help after all. But other than that, it does a really good job of painting the Empire as a really true villain and how horrible they treat their citizens. It's the worst I've seen the Empire portrayed, and it does it very effectively.
Huh. What am I doing?
I'd highly recommend it. It's not as good as like Ahsoka or anything, but it's still at least 4 stars.
Oh, good.
I actually, quite accidentally, started listening to Catalyst.
Oh.
I was at the library, and I thought to myself, oh, I should grab a book on tape, while I'm here, which, of course, is a book on CD now. And so ambled over there and was kind of scrolling through and saw Star Wars one and went, because I didn't want a quote unquote Legends. I figured
Right.
if I was going to do this, I should try and at least be somewhat current. And this happened to be the one they had. I was like, okay, cool. And I grabbed it and walked out and put it in, and it started, and it was giving me this whole backstory of Galen Erso. And I went, is this the same one Keith listened to?
It's the one I read, yes.
Turns out it's the one he read. So I'm only
Well,
about 3
enjoyed.
chapters in, but yeah.
Nice. Glenn, did you watch anything while you were sick on the couch?
Mason and I went and saw, before I got sick, saw Sonic the Hedgehog.
What'd you think?
We both quite enjoyed it. We thought it was fun. It's not without its issues. It's not the greatest movie, but I think it's fun and worth a watch. A lot of little Easter eggs in there that we kind of chuckled at. At least the ones we caught. I'm sure there were about a dozen of them that even went over our heads, even though both of us have played many a Sonic game over the years. But yeah, it was good. It was. I think I wondered about Jim Carrey, how well I would enjoy his character, because I think everybody kind of sort of got tired of Jim Carrey, but I think the nostalgia of Sonic wrapped up in the the old school performance of Jim Carrey, back from the Ace Ventura days and Dumb and Dumber days. I think it somehow works. They almost complement each other, and so
Yeah.
I was very pleased with that over the top performance that he did. That kind of harkened back to In Living Color days and Ace Ventura.
So it almost gives it a 90s feel.
It kind of does, yeah. And
which
then
fits for Sonic.
as far as reading, I haven't read much this week, mostly because this flu was accompanied by a massive migraine that finally didn't go away until about Sunday. But I went on an endeavor, which I may or may not regret. But I've decided to go back, and I've been trying to find something Doctor Who related that I could do that wasn't necessarily, contradictory or something that we probably wouldn't get to until much later down the road. And I've decided to go back and go chronologically from First Doctor on and read all of the comic book adventures, any sort of comic book adventure that any of the the Doctors have been in. I've gone back to the First Doctor, and I think I've talked about this website before, but the Doctor Who: The Complete Adventures by a guy named Andrew Kearley. He's always been kind of my go-to as far as the complete chronology of the Doctors and where stories pretty much are placed. And I don't think he's any sort of, end-all, beat-all, this is how everything really is laid out chronologically, but I think he does a really good job, and I kind of agree with his method. So I'm using his website, and I'll leave a link in the show notes if anybody wants to go check out this website. So this is the one that I kind of went to because we were keeping our own chronology, and as a Google Doc. And then when I found this guy and I thought, well, this guy's doing it for me, I just kind of quit making my own and using this guy. But he breaks everything down based on, TV, books, everything's nicely color coded so you can go back and find out. So what I went and did, I know that doesn't necessarily mean I'm going back and reading everything chronologically in real time, like our time. I'm going based on how he has placed it in the universe. So according to him, the first adventure from the Doctor would have been in the Doctor Who magazine, 231 to 233. And it's a story called Operation Proteus, or Proteus, I guess is probably how you say it. And so I've read that one. So I've started that, and that's I'm embarked on this journey. And if you guys let me humor you a little bit, maybe I'll do just some quick reviews on these as I go, if you guys are cool with that.
Absolutely.
Well, real quickly, this one's basically the First Doctor and Susan prior to Ian and Barbara showing up. And in fact, it's implied that it's right before that, although I'm not sure how that's going to work, since there are, it looks like, well, no, there is no other comic stories before they show up according to his timeline. So I guess this does kind of make sense. But the Doctor and Susan stumble across a Susan encounters this man who transforms into this alien beast, in a beatnik club in London somewhere, and she goes back and tells her grandfather, and he decides that they need to go and investigate. So they end up going to the underground, to this secret hideout, and they encounter this creature from space who traveled for hundreds of years with his faithful co-pilot, just traveling as one with their spaceship and exploring the universe. And one day he crash lands on Earth, and his co-pilot dies, and so in order to reward the kindness of the humans that find him, he decides he's going to help them with a program that will help them get ahead of other nations. And ultimately, this being decides that he's tired of being on Earth and isn't going to return the generosity of the humans, who seem hell-bent on destroying each other anyway. And so he's going to use human experiments in order to create a another co-pilot worthy of flying his ship, so that he can leave Earth and destroy humankind altogether. And so he goes on that path, and they have some college kids. And anyway, the idea is he's created this mutagen that he's infected these test subjects with, that then when they're released into the world, they basically spread this mutagen like a virus. And the doctor has to kind of figure out, how to convince him to stop and reverse this mutagen, which has already been released into basically the air. And decides that anyway, one of the mutants that transforms from one of these test subjects ends up killing the guy, the creature that's trying to destroy Earth. And the doctor has to use his notes to reverse engineer the mutagens, so that he can send another test subject out with basically an antidote that will infect everybody. Coincidentally, because it's underground at King's Cross, which is kind of the central location for all travelers in London, and saves the day. So that's pretty much it. It's I think it's a Gareth Roberts written story, if I remember right. I don't have it right here in front of me, but it was interesting and intriguing, a little silly, but it's nothing less than you can expect from one of these Doctor Who Monthly magazine story arcs that kind of they're usually about half a dozen pages, and then they continue from week to week. This particular one had 3 parts, so enjoyable. And I probably will have forgot what even happened by the time we ever come back around to this and review it proper on the show. But there's that. So that's my little mini review of the first Doctor Who comic story in my adventure.
Nice.
So the comic stories, these are not the if it's Gareth Roberts, it's obviously not the TV comics, the old school.
No. Yeah. See, this would have been Doctor Who 231 into 233, which I think is probably right around the mid 90s. This particular one, if I remember right, may have that off. But like I say, it's how he places the stories chronologically, not necessarily when they've come out. And through this little adventure, that I'm embarking on, eventually I will be reading stuff from the TV comics. But in his timeline, because of how they fall in, and it's John and Jillian, the explanation is that it's later in the first Doctor's life, that he spends time traveling with his other grandchildren. So they'll be a little bit a ways. In fact, the next adventure is the In Between Times, which was in that Titan comic that you guys read that I neglected to read. So you guys have already read the next one that I did, that I'm getting ready to do, but I hadn't. So this is kind of, serendipitous that I missed reading that one. And so now I will be coming around to it again. So
nice.
And you will, of course, make sure to attach a link in the show notes to this awesome
yes.
website.
Yes, absolutely.
Good deal.
Let's see if we can. This poor guy probably is just his own little server. Will probably overload it once everybody starts going.
I'd like to send a thank you out to the guys at Traveling Vortex for breaking my internet. We reply, "You're welcome."
All right. Well, do we have any news this week, Keith?
No news.
No news. It's hard to believe with there's new Doctor Who on and there's no new news.
Well, I think that's because it's all radio silence till the finale.
I suppose that's true.
Good news.
Did we talk about Build-A-Bear finally? I know we mentioned that it was coming, but did we talk about it finally releasing last week or becoming a
No,
thing
I
last week
forgot about
officially?
that one. No,
Yeah,
we didn't. So that's a thing now.
yeah. So, and it sounds like it's available online now, and it sounds like it's going to be available in the UK. It sounds like it's going to be available online in the US later this month as well. So,
Oh, nice. That
yeah,
was one thing I couldn't find was a US release date, so I'm glad you saw
yeah.
it.
It doesn't say specifically, but it does say coming later this month. So,
Nice.
very cool. All right. Well, should we move on to feedback then?
First up in feedback is Holly.
I did not have Holly's pulled up, anticipating we were going the other way. Well
Oh,
done.
okay. First up in feedback is Jamie.
Well, now I switched over, so you're going to get Holly.
First up in
Holly
feedback is Holly.
Holly writes, "Hey guys, where to start with this episode? Okay, I thought the Daleks were the baddest baddies around, but the Cybermen in this episode are really giving them a run for their money. The Doctor wanting you to go it alone and protect her fam, I completely understand. I think losing Bill to the Cybermen is still fresh in the Doctor's memories. The cyber drones were very creepy. Make the cyber mats from a few years ago. Gallifrey coming back and the Master making a return appearance. That makes me excited and nervous all at the same time for next week's episode. I'll wrap it up here. Holly from Wisconsin."
Thank you, Holly.
Thank you,
you.
Holly. And next up in feedback is Jamie. He writes, Hello, Vortexers. Before I dive into the Ascension of the Cybermen, a brief word of the 8 Mary Shelley stories. They do indeed take place before Charlie. In Storm Morning, when the Doctor is talking to himself at the start, he finds an autographed copy of Frankenstein and mentions
Oh, that's
nor
right.
being to tell what really happened. As for the other appearance in Mary's story, I suspect it could be the Time War. On top of this, the temporal backlash from the Lone Cyberman allows for both to happen, at least from a certain point of view. On to the Cybermen. It was good. I liked the Cyber Wars bits, but the Irish cop was confusing. I'm thinking he's one of the timeless children. But then towards the end, when he got the headphones on near the end, I thought it was maybe the dream of one of the Cybermen. Then the Master came back. This feels very much like a middle act. I'm very interested in seeing how this resolves itself. Gallifrey, the Master, the Cybermen, and conceivably the Timeless Child. Hopefully things are answered satisfactorily. So far, apart from a few low points, this season has been a major step up from the last one. Before I go and before this is concluded, do you think any companions will or won't be leaving? Anyway, keep up the great show. Jamie.
I'll tell you, one thing that I did think about this week was how Ryan, Taz and Cole has talked about, joining some series on CBS. I think it was. We reported that a few weeks ago. And when he gets separated in this one, I sort of thought, oh, wait, maybe he is going to get killed off in this and we'll end up losing one of our companions so they can go do that. So I did entertain that notion, but I'm not sure that I'm set on the fact that he's leaving.
Had he not reunited with the Doctor, I would have been a little bit more worried.
Yeah.
Of course, that could be the most dangerous place to be.
Yeah, that's true.
That's it in feedback.
Very good. All right. Well, let's launch into our reviews.
Ascension of the Cybermen. The aftermath of the Great Cyber War, the Doctor and friends arrive in the far future intent on protecting the last of the human race from the deadly Cybermen. But in the face of such a relentless enemy, has the Doctor put her best friends at risk? And what terrors lie hiding in the depths of space? And what is Ko-Sharmus?
Dun, dun, dun.
Start us off, Sean.
This was a lot of fun. This was very exciting, a little confusing, and very much agree with Jamie that it kind of felt like the middle part of a larger story. And I'm not quite sure I can give it a definitive how I felt about it or competent review even, because there are so many things churning that it's really going to depend on the finale, I think, for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd agree. There's not a lot that gets really resolved in this story, so it's a little harder to come down on it one way or another since a lot of things are left hanging. But I agree, it was an enjoyable action adventure ride that I think does the Cybermen well. Especially through most of it when it's just the three of them and an onward march continuously and them trying to just constantly get away, it uses them very effectively.
Oh, let's be honest. When you saw the 70s Cybermen style heads on those one warrior robots, you were probably just
I absolutely
squeeing
love the
so much.
redesign. The redesign is fantastic. Oh, it looks so good.
It's not a redesign. It's an old design.
Well, it's a mesh of designs. It's a
It is a
mesh
mesh. Yeah.
of the 60s, late 60s Cybermen helmets with the bodies of the Nightmare and Silver Cybermen.
Yeah. Yeah.
They look so good. I can't wait to see more of them in action.
Yeah, I agree. I think unfortunately, I always seem to land with these stories whenever these, two-parters, or in this case, a quasi three-parter. I agree that it feels like the middle section of a story. Not a lot is advanced in this story other than there's a lot of running and setup for what's to come. But that being said, I'm never bored in this story, in this episode. I think it's a lot of fun. It's thrilling and scary and exciting and exhilarating. It runs at breakneck speed. It doesn't give you a chance to kind of breathe, which I think works really well because it continues to push you on from one end to the other. And like I say, there's not a lot going on in this story other than the build up to what's to come and the build up to the end of this, especially when it's sort of revealed what's on this ship. But I had so much fun watching it, and it's one of those ones that if the second part, if it can stick the landing in the second part of this, then I think that I will be able to even give it more praise next week. If what I hope it doesn't happen is it doesn't become a footnote in a story that becomes kind of lackluster or doesn't quite make it on the end. And I'm kind of hoping the next one sets the bar just as high or even higher for the storytelling they've started telling in this particular story arc.
We're still gun shy from extremists.
Yeah. So true.
Well, so many of Moffat's two-parters. You would
Yeah.
have a first great part, and then the second part would just not quite make it. And I agree with the pacing. I normally am not a big fan of the breakneck, but because of the threat of these Cybermen constantly chasing them down, it works really well for the story.
I sort of remember looking up about 35, maybe even 40 minutes in, and thinking, that much time has not elapsed already. I can't believe that this is, that we've been engaged in this story for this long, and this thing's almost over. And I remember thinking, well, that is the first time that the first 35, 40 minutes of a Doctor Who episode just flew by, and I had no idea it'd been that long.
It did truck really well for just the we use these terms like breakneck pace and frantic and things, and this one really was. There was you kind of hit the ground running mid stride because we're investigating this planet given to us by Percy Shelley, and we've got all the equipment already set and ready to go. We know that we're in the middle of the end of the cyber wars, which, first of all, that's a great thing to explore. We've heard so much throughout the history of the show about the end of the Cybermen, and after Tomb of the Cybermen, it's very much okay. Everything is set prior to that because, well, this is the end, and so this was really kind of cool to explore the end and get a little bit more of that battle and how it's affected them. I was very giddy over that. But we literally just kind of hit the ground running, and the episode does not stop for breath, except maybe if you want to count the Irish flashback, sideways, alternate. I'm not sure what to call them. Those are kind of the breather moments. Everything with the Doctor and Fam is just run.
Yeah, it really is. And I agree. I like the exploration of the end of the Cyber Wars. It's such a ripe material of things to explore, and then adding this extra complication of the lone Cyberman into it, because you kind of get the impression that because he has the Siberian now in him, it's almost altering the timeline of some way, because it's like he wasn't supposed to be there.
Mm-hmm.
And these Cybermen were supposed to stay dormant, but now he's there and causing trouble. So it's still it could be, it's right material. It's fertile ground.
Yeah, Tim said something very interesting when we were discussing this on Tartar Sauce about the Lone Cyberman and how excited he was by this character because it's just such a different take on the villainy. And I have to say, I don't know that I was initially. I certainly wasn't prepared for it. I don't know that I initially took to it, but I think it was simply because I wasn't on the same page with it yet. We have our Cybermen kind of all cut from the same cloth. They are all tromping around, stomping, emotionless, and there's a lot of screaming for all of the non-emotions that are going on. But that's just kind of their thing, and you fall into that rhythm, if you will, that cadence that the Cybermen have. And here's this guy who's seething with anger, and it's just a constant boil of rage that's built up in him. And yet his while we don't know the ultimate end goal, whatever his current plan is certainly nefarious enough that we should be concerned. And it strikes a very weird balance in a way, because this is something new. This is not something we've seen before. It would be like if you gave me a Dalek that recited poetry and asked, would you like a cup of tea? It's that level of different, and I don't think my brain was quite prepared for this particular villain. And it was brought up that it would be great if he came back, and now I am suddenly extremely concerned that however this thing is going to wrap up is going to do the fairly standard "we dispatched the villain" at the end of the story arc. And I kind of agree. I don't want this guy to be gone because he's suddenly become very interesting to me.
Well, yeah, but how many times have we dispatched Davros and then brought him back? I mean,
the master.
You can put a final nail on the coffin of any villain and bring him back in Doctor Who at any time. So
that's true. It is Doctor Who.
Yeah, I'm not so worried, especially since there's a lot of precedent for that.
Well, and he's also one of the characters that the last episode, you kind of get an idea, okay, this is what this guy's about, but then you unpeel another layer in this story and discover more about who this kind of who this guy was and what's going on with him. The fact that the process was abandoned on him. It wasn't that he became so damaged that the emotion circuit broke, and so that's why he is this way. No, they just abandoned the cyber conversion process. So there's constantly stuff to unpack with him. He's not just a one-note character.
Yeah.
Right. And we've been real fortunate that we've had 3 stories, or will have had 3 stories with him by the time this is over too. So
yeah, that's true.
I should say 3 episodes.
Yeah, 1 story, 3 episodes. I thought the companions were well divided and were played to their strengths fairly well too. Ryan getting stranded behind so he could be with the Doctor, and then Yaz and Graham off together with the rest of the other humans, and Graham being the eternal optimist, and Yaz figuring out how to do things. I thought they were a great combo together.
Yeah, it's not a lot of time that we get Graham and Yaz on their own as a team, and I think that it was kind of nice to see those 2 pairs.
It very much felt, I don't know, it was Graham and Yaz together made certainly a new angle on the paradigm that, again, I wasn't quite prepared for, but I found that I really quite enjoyed. And Yaz treated it like, oh yeah, we're together all the time, not just as a bigger group, but
right.
When she says, oh, the 2 of us together, come on, we can do anything. And he just like, yeah, all right. Even though he, who has been the big champion and the cheerleader and the think positive sunshine, and he's been doing all that, even Graham was beginning to get to that, oh, we are really kind of screwed here, aren't we?
Yeah.
And so it was Yaz who recognized that and went, no, we're not doing that.
Well, and they've got paired off before, just not to this extent.
Yeah.
Because they were paired off in Praxeus together for a part of it.
Yeah.
But just not to this scale.
I was just say, I think what I liked about this one is that there's so much time together that they were able to kind of highlight that. So I like that. Anybody else wonder if this was very near to the Orion War, from the story Sword of Orion, with I think it was 8th Doctor, very, very early in the main range. That was that was kind of the big catalyst of the Cyber War, at least at that time when they were talking about it too. And I wonder if this is on kind of maybe that heels, because they talked about how both the Cybermen and the humans are down to very, very few left. Only 7 left in this region of the galaxy, or this galaxy. And so I kind of wondered if this is in any way related to that same conflict between humans in the Orion War.
I think it very well could have been.
I hadn't thought of that, but once you have now said that, yes, I can totally see these visuals, these sets, as what the Eighth Doctor was running around.
Makes you kind of want to go back and listen to it and imagine these sets. Gives you a little more head fodder.
Especially imagining them with these new designs.
Yeah.
The production design on this was really rather outstanding. I liked the Junker ship, kind of the weird. It was very much tickling the back of my brain, going, "This is just familiar enough that I feel like I should recognize it." And then I would stare at it and go, "No, I don't think this is meant to be anything. I think it's just a Jupiter.
It's just a well designed."
But that obviously the Cybermen with the 80s heads and the new bodies look great. Pretty much across the board with all of that. I will say, I think the effects may have taken a slight hit on this episode. They've been pretty consistently outstanding throughout this series. And this one, I don't know that I was quite as enamored with them. Starting with the cyber drones, which once you got over the initial
flying Cybermen heads,
and then we're totally okay with it. But it just something about the green screening on it just didn't quite work for me. They looked very not in that environment. And then later, when all of the Cybermen started waking up and coming from the doors, this is such a big, epic, and meant to be terrifying moment. And I found I just didn't quite believe it because it just looked a little too digital for me. There was something about it that was just off, and I can't say for sure why.
I didn't notice.
I don't think anybody else did. Tim even praised how good the effects were. So I thought maybe it's just me.
It may be just you, because I thought the effects on this one were amazing too. I think particularly the outer space shots, the exterior of the big ship that they end up on, the ship itself that they escape in, I think looked really cool. It was neat. It was a neat design. Maybe I was more enamored by the fact that it seemed like not entirely unique of a design of ship, but something that we don't less familiar. Like, it's not that kind of streamlined, sleek edges of a spaceship that we're used to. This was more saucer-like and round, and it rotates as it flies, which I thought was kind of cool. So maybe I was just kind of taken by the cool look of the ship and brought that into great special effects as well. So
yeah, and like the fields of floating Cybermen, I thought looked fantastic too. I could see a little bit on the flying Cybermen heads. Some of that I thought didn't look the best, but everything else I thought looked phenomenal. I do kind of wish the drones had been something, better than flying heads, but once I kind of got used to it, I kind of like it now.
Well, something that I'd brought up the other night was it kind of sort of makes you wonder every time we saw a Cyberman head. For example, Pandorica opens when the Cyberman head is laying there by itself. Is that really a decapitated head, or is that a drone that's laying there? Now you could argue that you could argue that it's probably part of a full Cyberman, because there's also an arm there that ends up shooting at them as well. But it also makes me wonder about Handles. Was Handles actually a Cyberman head, or was it one of the Cyberdrone?
That's true. Well, and it also kind of lends to the idea posed in Nightmare in Silver, where they could kind of detach different parts of themselves to go do what they needed. Yeah. You kind of wonder, were these just actually heads at one point that they either converted, or did they literally come off of bodies and we just never saw the bodies?
I hadn't thought of that. You're right.
I mentioned that I was quite disappointed that once they started flying over, and I had accepted that there were flying Cybermen heads, that they target some survivors and shoot them instead of swooping down and opening up and encasing the human heads inside these things and start cyber converting from the neck down, which I think really would have added a level of terrifying to these things. sense.
Yeah.
That would have.
And even Mel commented, she goes, I thought the Cybermen took over people. Why are they killing them all? Like, different group? I don't know.
Well, it is. I mean, that's the Lone Cyberman, Ashad, I think it was his name. Is his name?
Yeah.
He's basically hell bent on destruction. He's not. It's not about conversion anymore. It's about total annihilation.
Okay, so I'm bringing this one up now. Are you ready to have your mind blown with this theory?
I've heard that before, but okay, go ahead.
So the Lone Cyberman's name is Ashad, which if you spell it out, and I looked it up, it is an anagram for something. Shada. I don't know how you make it work.
I think my mind would be blown if I could think of a way to make it work, but I can't think of any connection whatsoever to it. So yeah, I'm afraid that was more of a mind
place, not a person.
Yeah, it was kind of a mind fizzle.
Although, if you pair that with my other theory that we're still not in Universe Prime, which I think we were given a lot more potential evidence to that. Once again, Ashad makes a comment about I will track down every corner of this universe. And again, maybe he's just being a megalomaniac because they all kind of say things like that. But it was a very pronounced here. We have a portal at the end that takes us somewhere else. Maybe Gallifrey, maybe not. We have all kinds of just little things that don't add up. Like, for example, the new Cybermen, a design we've never seen before. Well, maybe it's because they're not our universe Cybermen. We have new cyber ships, a design that we've never seen before. And with all of the callbacks to Classic Who that Chibnall has given us, wouldn't it have made sense for him to have the old school with the round, the cyber destroyers, whatever they're called?
I don't think so. And the reason I say that is because I think you are, because I think that the design of the Cybermen has continued to evolve. So I continue to expect new design choices, a new look as the series progresses. So I think that's just
I don't disagree.
That's just the nature of it. I also think you have to presume that Chibnall's lying, man, that he says that there is not a parallel universe. And I think I've stated before that I have to give him the benefit of the doubt until he actually is caught in a lie. Then I have to give him the benefit of the doubt that this is not an alternate Doctor. This is not an alternate universe. I don't think he's gone as far to say as that, not necessarily say that it's an alternate timeline, because I think that that's where this is going to end up landing. Is that something has splintered the timeline, and we have a new series of events. But I have I just can't say. I don't think the alternate universe theory holds true unless he's completely lying to us in that interview with Radio Times.
Now,
or Digital Spy. I can't remember which
what new bit of information did we learn about Shada? That it was this prison where they kept all of the
most dangerous
people. And didn't it have something to do with aborted timelines? Didn't it? Or am I confusing two different things?
I think you're confusing two different things.
Well, then
you're thinking of Cricketman.
Yeah, Cricketman had aborted timeline. Axis of what was that?
The Axis.
Yeah, it was Axis of something. Was the Axis of Insanity, wasn't it?
Something like that.
Yeah, that one had aborted timelines.
Wasn't a Fourth Doctor one that had this big Nexus hub of this is where the Time Lords, because they go in, they fix things, and that
was Axis. That was Axis of Insanity. It was a Fifth Doctor, I believe. Fifth Doctor story.
There was a novel that referenced that story, and I think it was Cricketman.
Okay,
I don't think it was Cricketman.
You don't?
I don't think it was Cricketman. I thought
maybe it was Scratchman.
Obviously, I thought it was Shada.
Maybe it was Scratchman, yeah.
It wasn't Shada.
It was a newer idea. It's been since Shada, I'm pretty sure. Keith's right.
Well, then never mind. It doesn't work. I thought I had it all laid out for you.
Speaking of the portal, I was reading an article online that was saying that it looked to them that Gallifrey was normal. But to me, it looked destroyed.
Oh, it looked destroyed to me. It looked entirely destroyed to me, yeah.
I'm not the only one that assuming that or saw that it was a destroyed version.
Yeah, no, it was definitely a destroyed version, yeah.
Okay, this article was just stupid then.
I mean, you totally saw the two little kids standing there in the desert next to the concrete thing, right? I mean,
well, on the next time, trailer.
Next time trailer.
I did. I didn't see it in the episode. Yeah. Back to your Shada theory there, Sean. I sort of wish that Shada would have internally addressed aborted timelines, because then it would have gone a long way to explain itself for having so many different versions. What else about this one that everybody liked? It's hard for me to sit and talk much about this one because of the fact that I don't want to say nothing happened, because a lot happens. There's a lot of lead up to what the conclusion of this story is going to be, but the majority of this is them running from the Cybermen. I mean, it's them running, them getting separated, them trying to help these refugees. A lot of good stuff, but it's hard for me to sit here and point out all the great little things, other than just overall it paints a really intriguing story, but I can't say much more about it because it feels like putting together, a jigsaw puzzle and not having all the pieces yet is what it really feels like. And so I feel like I'm broken recording this, but I really feel like I'll have a lot more to say about both stories next week after we've come to somewhat of a conclusion. Of as we talked a little bit on Tartar Sauce this week about how the potential's there that they will wrap up one threat or the other, but continue some plot threads over into the next series. And I think I'm landing wholeheartedly on the fact that they'll resolve the Cyberman story, but hang on to the Ruth Doctor story into the next series. And so I don't see them wrapping all of this up, regardless of the fact that the last story is called The Timeless Children.
Perhaps it will just reveal more information that we'll want to unpack next season.
And it makes sense that they would be prepared to carry on some of the story into the next series, especially since both Chibnall and Whitaker have said, yeah, we're doing a series 3, or we're doing a third series. So.
Yeah. My other thing about this story is the guest cast was just kind of there. They were kind of expendable, kind of like you need them to be, though. So it wasn't necessarily to its detriment.
It wasn't, and I think that happens because you have so many of them, and so many of them that are, as you said, expendable, are going to be ones that aren't going to make it. We introduce this one guy and give him a name, only to turn around and kill him. Seconds later. So, and
really, the only one that stands out was the young kid that winds up with the doctor. And then the lady that was flirting with Graham.
Yes. And I think we're meant to focus in on those two, because in fact, I think they'll probably have a little story going into next week as well.
I hope so.
Okay, so I'm not the only one that totally thought that she and Graham were kind of sort of hitting it off, but not really going there.
Oh, yeah.
No, absolutely.
Okay, totally
good. Because I found myself actually kind of hoping that Graham would find somebody. Maybe it's too soon, but
no, I myself thought the same thing, and I don't think it's too soon, because I think we can assume that they've been traveling with they've had many more adventures, and I think we can assume they've been traveling with the Doctor for quite some time now.
Yeah,
who knows? Graham may decide to stay behind with her in the future because he realizes he doesn't have anything in the past for himself. I mean, he's basically retired, right? He doesn't drive a bus anymore. He's, pretty much in remission from his cancer. He doesn't have Grace anymore. Ryan would be his only connection, and
if Ryan gets
if they off him as well, then it would give him even more reason to maybe stay behind.
That's true.
Or is it really stay behind when you're in the future?
Well,
stay ahead.
We haven't really touched on the Irish cop storyline, but I kind of agree with Jamie, with what you said, Glenn, that it was kind of the breath spot in the story that I am interested to see how it's going to connect with everything else.
Well, I think that's the problem that I have with that, is it really intriguing thread that was going on through there, but it in no way has connected to the A plot of the story yet. It's a B plot that I think will pay off later. It was, again, very intriguing. It made you wonder what's going on here. What is this guy's connection to everything? Why is this guy superhuman? He's been shot and fallen off a cliff, and he's fine. And then in the next scene, he's aged, retiring, and the father and the captain of the police department, neither one of them have aged any. And then they hook him up to some machine and give him electroshock therapy. And so you have to wonder what's going on here.
Yeah, and especially The coming back from death was very Captain Jack-esque.
Yeah, right. We had some theories talking about it last night on Tartar Sauce, and I think that one of them, and I think Sean, I should hand it over to you. Not the don't talk about the Captain Jack one. The other one that you thought maybe it was.
Not the Captain Jack one.
Not the Captain Jack one.
In dealing with the Irish guy.
Yeah. Didn't you think it was supposedly the gatekeeper guy that was?
Oh no, that was
was that Tim?
Tim, I think, had that one.
Oh, okay, all right.
That he thought that what was the guy's name? Bradley Branford.
Brendan.
He thinks that Brendan he was totally convinced that Brendan would wind up being the keeper of the portal at the end of all things, that he's been immortal and he stays behind because, he's ancient now. But then they tortured him, so now he's not so sure.
See, and all through it, I thought, oh, this is going to be Ashad's backstory. And it didn't necessarily look like him once he got to be tortured. So,
yeah. Well, I was kind of leading down that road as well until we met the gatekeeper guy, and then I sort of landed on I wonder if maybe Brendan's this guy, and so that's where I kind of landed with it as well.
Do we have any now? Can I tell you my theory on the gatekeeper, the portal guy?
Yeah,
it's the master.
The only reason that I don't think I hope it's not is because to me that's too reminiscent of the Master in Disguise while Missy's on the same ship. So you've got two masters. One is the past Master in Disguise. This turns around and redoes that again. It does we've got two masters involved here, and it's because, the Master's in Disguise, whether it ends up being the John Sim master or another master, or he rips off his, mask and it ends up being Missy. It's already been done, and I would feel like that's kind of a cheat because I feel like we've already seen that before. I would be more excited to see that it's another returning villain, maybe the Ronnie or somebody else. I think that would be
the Ronnie.
Yeah, I mean that would make it a little more plausible for me. But to rehash something where it's the Master working with the Master again, that doesn't work for me.
Well, and it seemed like from what we know of the guy, he's ostensibly a good guy. I mean, he stayed behind selflessly to make sure other people can get through. So it doesn't seem like it's some sort of plots.
But but if you're going to set up this big reveal of who this is, that's how you're going to set it up. And I think the only time I sort of felt the same way, Keith. I felt like this guy he's made the ultimate sacrifice. He seems to be this good guy. But it wasn't until he kept kind of almost ominously pushing the Doctor to get closer to the gate, to the I keep calling it a gate. It was a portal or whatever it was. Barrier. They called it a barrier. He kept saying, get closer. And he almost had this ominous, like he was goading her to get closer so that she would, and then she'd get swallowed up into it. It was just
like
activated. Yeah, well, yes, very Master-like, or very Ronnie-like, maybe.
Especially if whoever this person is knew that the Master was going to come barreling through this portal momentarily, because who doesn't like to make an entrance?
Well, yeah, certainly that's true, too. Anything else on this particular story? It's just hard to say without the second part of it, of how really great this story is.
It's very, very good, I think.
Yeah.
At the very least, it's an enjoyable ride so far.
Very good. Well, what we got coming up on the schedule?
Well, coming up on the schedule, we have The End. The Timeless Children is the Who episode for next week. It's the finale of this season, and we will be covering it in all of its glory. And we have a slight change after all of my careful deliberations and putting together of a schedule that I thought was going to work. We were informed by the powers that be, in this case, the range editor over at Candy Jar Books, that no, we should not do Rise of the Dominator next. We should actually do the Laughing Gnome Havoc Files. So we are changing, and I will have those changes reflected on a new schedule posting on our website shortly.
Very good.
So that will be after that.
Excellent. Sounds good. Well, be sure to check out our website for those updates. And while you're there, be sure to click on our Patreon link and consider supporting us. And for those of you that are supporting us, we are ever thankful for your support. And remember, you can send feedback and comments to feedback@travelingthevortex.com or by clicking on the send feedback link on the website. Anything else until next time, guys?
I don't think
believe
so.
All right. If not, till next time, I'm Glenn.
I'm Sean.
I'm Keith.
Cheers.
Be seeing you. That's not my line.
That's not. Good night, everybody.
Thanks for listening.
I'm not awake.
You have been listening to Traveling the Vortex. Doctor Who and all of its associated programs are owned and trademarked by the BBC. No infringement is intended or implied.